You're listening to Bloomberg Businessweek with Massar and Tim Stenovec on Bloomberg Radio.
Maui County's failure to sound sirens to warn residents of the danger of a fire that engulfed Lahaina last month was blamed in a lawsuit for the death of a woman who was unable to escape. That lawsuit was filed Monday, and it's the first following the deadliest U.S. fire in more than a century to target county and state governments over the emergency response effort. That's according to lawyers who filed the complaint on Monday in Hawaii State Court. I should note that a multitude of lawsuits have been filed after the Maui fires, many of them alleging that Hawaiian Electric Industries power lines contributed to the fires that destroyed much of Lahaina and killed more than 100 people. We've got with us this afternoon Bridget Morgan-Bickerton. She's managing partner at Bickerton Law Group. She and her firm are building a class action lawsuit targeting Maui County and the state of Hawaii over its emergency response to last month's wildfire tragedy. Bridget joining us this afternoon on Zoom from Honolulu, Hawaii. Bridget, good to have you with us. How are you?
I'm very well. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for joining us on this. You know, we've covered the fire and its aftermath and the terrible tragedy, and a lot of our coverage is focused on climate change and the fact that so many people perished in this fire and it spread so quickly and that it caught so many people by surprise. Given your experience covering and litigating around grass-fed fires, talk to us about your thoughts around this and who should be held responsible.
Well, one of the things that's so tragic about this particular fire is that it shouldn't have caught people by surprise. It was foreseeable and it should have been anticipated, and actually was anticipated by a lot of people here and organizations here. But the county, the state, and large landowners didn't heed that warning.
Now, I know we'll get into the details in a second, but what we understand is you're building a class action lawsuit against Maui County. There have been other suits against Hawaiian Electric. Is the county the right one to hold responsible rather than the utility specifically, or do they both need to be held responsible?
Just to clarify, the suit that we filed yesterday is not a class action. It is a wrongful death case against Maui County, the state, HECO, and one of the largest landowners in the state for the death of Miss Rands, who was killed trying to escape the fire. We do believe that Maui County is culpable and is a proper defendant because it did not alarm Maui residents. It did not have an evacuation plan. And it was also a landowner that allowed wild non-native grass to grow out of control on its land.
How does a lawsuit like this go for people who haven't been to law school, for people who haven't followed these in civil court? How does it how long does it take and what has to happen in order for it to proceed?
Well, very sadly, it can take a very long time. There are a lot of claimants, a lot of people who have filed lawsuits already, and a lot of people who have not filed lawsuits. But it goes through the court process, which can go very slow. Some portion of these claims will probably end up in the bankruptcy court, and our client will be there along with many other claimants who have lost loved ones, who have lost businesses, who have lost homes. And, we would like to work together with other claimants and with other attorneys involved and with the defendants to try to come up with a solution to help the people who are injured quicker rather than later, sooner rather than later. So we are always, open to sitting down and talk. I think in this situation, there's going to need to be a very creative solution because there are a lot of people who are injured and a lot of community that needs to be rebuilt.
What are some of the first things we could expect to see happen here, both, just as a logistical basis, making sure some incident like this doesn't happen as we're litigating this out, as well as in this litigation process? What do you want to hear from the county, from the utility?
Well, right away, and one of the reasons that Mr. Wells filed suit was so that we could secure evidence and, conduct our own forensic analysis and investigation. Part of the problem of what's happening in Lahaina is that the county is in charge of the area and has precluded everyone else basically from entering that area. And we would like to go in and be able to conduct our own independent forensic analysis and collect our own evidence and secure our own evidence. Other things that probably should happen and can happen are that directives need to come down to create evacuation plans and to make sure that this doesn't happen again, and to conduct analyses of properties to make sure that grasses are cut back and are managed and that vegetation is managed. All of these things can happen while the litigation is playing out and need to happen so that this does not happen again. We are still in the peak of fire season, and our entire state and many portions of it are under a red flag warning daily. And we would like to see evacuation plans implemented and other measures carried out so this does not happen again.
Bridget, what are you seeking with these lawsuits? What's the outcome that you want to see?
Well, first and foremost, and I think Ms. Henricks, Ms. Rand's sister, very eloquently said that we don't want to see this happen again. A lot of people were very sadly made an example, and the county needs to step up, create an evacuation plan, and implement measures that require landowners to do things about their overrun, unmanaged properties. So that is a big part of this, so that this doesn't happen to other people again. They do seek compensation. There's no amount of monetary compensation that can bring back Becky Rands. But, the family has lost a very dear daughter, sister, mother, and certainly some compensation is in order.
Of course. Is there anything that you have seen from the authorities so far? I mean, we're in the midst of this recovery and investigation effort, but is there anything that you have seen from the county or the state so far that has encouraged you?
I'm afraid not. We've been very, very disappointed with the response. I think there have been statements made and commitments made, but we have not seen any actual steps toward progress, toward mitigation, toward...
Why do you think that is?
It's hard to say. It's very hard to say. I don't want to speculate why. I think everyone is still a bit shell-shocked. I mean, this was a tragic thing for the county, for the state, for everyone in our state and the entire country. This was a tragedy that should not have happened. But I do think that a lot of people might feel paralyzed, and that's why we are getting involved, and we want to make sure that things are done and that things move forward, and that this paralysis that the county and the state appear to have is cut through.
What's the other experience with grass-fed fires that you've had in terms of cases that you've done in Hawaii?
Sure. 2 years ago, there was a major grassland fire on Hawaii Island in Waimea, and that fire burned approximately 40 acres of land. Thank goodness, Waimea is not as populated as Lahaina and is not as densely populated, but it did destroy acres and acres and acres of land. And we represent several Hawaiian homesteaders in Waimea who have sued Parker Ranch resulting from that fire. Many of our clients lost their land. It hasn't come back. One of our clients lost their entire home in that fire, and we are in the midst of that litigation right now.
Well, Bridget, we really appreciate you taking the time and joining us this afternoon from Hawaii. That's Bridget Morgan-Bickerton. She's managing partner at the Bickerton Law Group, joining us this afternoon on Zoom from Honolulu, Hawaii.
And I should mention the Hawaii Attorney General's office was reviewing the complaint and told this to our reporters on the story yesterday. Hawaiian Electric and officials for the Maui County did not immediately respond to a request for comment.